we're going to highlight some of our partner organizations, which are going to just talk quickly about things they do related to soil health in their with their organizations. And so we'll get that brought up here real quick. Great. So we're gonna start with NOFA-New York. So Katie, if hopefully you can see that, and I'll give you permission to advance your slides if you like to.
Thank you, Michael. And thanks so much for inviting me here to speak on behalf of NOFA. I really appreciate the opportunity. Let's see how, okay. That went too far. Okay, so I'm sure many of you are familiar with NOFA-New York, but I did want to give just a brief overview of our work. So the Northeast Organic Farming Association's work on soil health includes programming and advocacy work. We are a membership-based nonprofit that has been providing programming for organic and sustainable farmers since 1983. And our vision is for a just and resilient farming system grounded in a diverse community now and for future generations. So a little bit about organic in New York State. Many of the panelists before me really mentioned organic quite a bit, a number of times, really underscoring that organic underpins a lot of our soil health efforts. We actually have so NOFA-New York is an organic certifier also, accredited by the USDA, and we certify about 1,100 operations in New York State. And as I mentioned, New York is a big player in organic. We're third in the nation in for the number of organic farms, fourth in terms of the amount of organic acreage, and we're actually number one in terms of the number of organic dairy farms. So again, this has really been mentioned by several other panelists, but and we're really appreciative of the work of Matt and others who are really exploring some organic management practices to help with soil health. But more generally, organic systems rely largely on soil for nutrition and protection of crops, and farmers build soil life by adding compost, diversifying crop rotation, cover crops, and so forth. And in fact, organic producers are required to develop a plan for improving soil health as a part of their organic system plan. So many certified and non-certified operations in the NOFA community have been refining soil health practices for years or even decades, and really are pioneers in this space who I look forward to learning from as we continue to expand our soil health efforts in New York. So back to NOFA's programming specifically, our programming includes technical assistance to organic and transitioning to organic producers, and educational events and materials for farmers and gardeners on building healthy soils. Our 2022 field day season, we offered 9 on-farm events, several in partnership with other organizations, including the New York Soil Health Alliance. And one particular event I want to highlight that's coming up, our biggest event of the year, is our winter conference, which is coming up in just under 2 months. It's our 41st annual winter conference. It's being held virtually from February 2nd to 5th. And this year we're partnering with the Northeast Community Seed Conference and Celebration to offer over 70 workshops and special events, including a full track of policy workshops and a full track of soil health workshops. I've highlighted some of those on the slide, but you can visit our website for a more comprehensive list, and more will be added shortly also. And finally, I wanted to share a bit more about our advocacy work related to soil health. So our policy advocacy is driven by grassroots engagement. We hold regular meetings with our members to strategize, share expertise, identify opportunities for action, especially around soil health policy. For example, this year we worked on advocating for that increased funding in the budget for soil and water conservation districts and the climate resilient farming program that Julie and others mentioned earlier on. We also put together comments for the Climate Act draft scoping plan, which others have also mentioned. And we also meet to share experiences and reflections on programming and policies that work for organic farmers and engage in direct advocacy at the state and federal levels. NOFA collaborates with state and federal partners. For example, we participate in a National Healthy Soils Policy Network, which is a group of farmer-centered organizations from across the country who share resources and best practices for advocating and advancing state healthy soils policies. So I just want to leave you with a thought. We're really at an exciting moment in New York, where we have the newly enacted Soil Health and Climate Resiliency Act, bringing more research and technical support statewide. We're on the brink of this historic climate plan being enacted with many strategies for emissions reductions in agriculture. We also heard a bit earlier about some of the climate smart commodity programs that are happening in New York State. So we really do have a lot of energy in policy and programming and a huge opportunity to lead the country in ecologically sound, resilient regional food system. So it's essential that we do this in a way that really maximizes benefits to farmers and ecosystems through cooperative and inclusive implementation of programming and equitable distribution of resources and funding. So thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you very much, Katie. We'll move on to Bianca from the American Farmland Trust. Go ahead, Bianca.
Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Sure can.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to see so many of my colleagues from ways back. It's really wonderful to see you all, and it's really wonderful to see how amazing all the work that's moving forward in New York is. Since I have left back in 2014, went to DC to start up the Soil Health Division, and now I am with American Farmland Trust, representing all of my colleagues there. So really excited to be here. At American Farmland Trust, I now direct the climate initiative, still very involved with soil health, also dealing with several of the other aspects like smart solar, siting, and protecting farmland for climate. But I'll focus here a bit on our soil health and climate interface. So at American Farmland Trust, for those of you who don't know the organization, we take a very holistic approach to agriculture. We protect the land. We work on keeping farmers and ranchers on the land and viable. And of course, we work on practices, soil health practices and other practices that conserve the land. And so we take that holistically, and we have a staff that I'm very excited to work with, addressing climate and soil health all across the nation. And so here's just some of the faces on our national staff. Now, who's not there are our New York staff, and I think some of them are in the audience. There's Erin Ristow, who leads a lot of the soil health work in New York, and Linda Garrett is the director, and there are a number of folks in New York working on climate, soil health, viability, and farmland protection. And since I only have 5 minutes, I feel like it's actually more important for you all to see our faces and to understand who we are and how we work, because we want to continually build those collaborations, figure out where the gaps are together, figure out how we can all collaborate across all of these organizations. American Farmland Trust is part of the New York Soil Health Committee, and we love working across New York and across the country on all of these different interacting factors, right? Soil health, climate, water quality and quantity. We bring in sociologists, we have agroecosystems experts, we have economists, we work on outcomes quantification, we work a lot on policy and bringing all of these technical aspects to policy, land protection, solar development, communications. There's a lot going on, and we bring it all together to make an impact. We have national programs that are disciplinary, and we have regional programs that really holistically address across a region what can be done for farming and for soil health. And so we scale things up. So we might learn interesting things in New York that we then bring to other regions, and vice versa. We might learn something in New England that we then bring to New York, and so on. So exciting place to work, exciting opportunities to work across all the partners who are represented here today. A bit about the climate initiative. We are taking 3 approaches that all interlink. We quantify impacts on the ground. We do a lot of work on the ground with farmers and with all the stakeholders involved in agriculture. And we do a lot of work uniting coalitions, advancing policy solutions, and building partnerships, and really leveraging the influencers that are out there in the space. I wanted to just highlight a couple examples of the kinds of things that we are working on nationally. We have a national soil health demonstration project that is funded right now, where we are working on cover crop adoption and targeting some of the key issues in the difficulties for how to implement cover crops in various parts of the country. We are building decision support tools. For example, we have the carbon reduction evaluation potential tool, and that tool helps states, for example, figure out how much potential there is to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions using various different conservation and soil health practices. We recently put out some state mitigation potential briefs that are now on our website. They're basically 2-pagers that can be used with a bit of technical information for a policymaker when they are exploring how agriculture can contribute to their climate solutions in their state. We are working to scale up sustainable biochar use, and working with Cornell University and working with US Biochar Initiative and Agricultural Research Service. We will be building a national biochar decision support tool through those collaborations. We also were lucky enough to be funded for 4 climate smart commodity partnership projects that we are involved in. And so that's really exciting. I was really excited to hear about the New York one that was funded, and we all should get together because one of ours has a big New York component. And I think making sure that we coordinate and that we address gaps, that we go at it together, going in the same direction, making sure to reach as many farmers as we can with those 2 partnership grants as we possibly can, that would be great. And then we do a lot of policy work. So we're working heavily on the Farm Bill for 2023 right now. And we do a lot of work in states as partners, for example, with the US Climate Alliance and various other partners on the ground. So lots of stuff going on nationally. And I just want to say a few things about our national policy work in case this is not on your radar. The Inflation Reduction Act is going to infuse NRCS with almost $20 billion for climate smart practices and quantification of those practices. So really exciting opportunities. And if any of you, especially Cornell folks who are in the space of quantification for climate smart practices, if you have suggestions for NRCS for how to use those funds for quantification, right now is the time. The Federal Register comments are due next week on the 21st. And there's a lot of expertise here in this room. I would love to see those comments end up with NRCS because I bet there's a lot that they could take advantage of. So if you aren't already working on comments, American Farmland Trust is working on comments. If you have a few comments, you want to send them my way. I'm building a set of quantification comments and I'm happy to take input, but you can also submit your own. Other than that, we are working heavily on our Farm Bill agenda right now. You can find that on our website. And just one snippet of what we are doing here is we are encouraging our legislators to make sure to provide federal matching funds for state soil health programs like this one, because there are such amazing ideas that come up in the states that really need to be leveraged, that really need to have more dollars added to them. And so that's just one of the many recommendations that are going out today. Again, you can learn more about that. There's the website down below on our Farm Bill agenda. And finally, I'll say a few words. I will not do justice for all of the amazing work our New York team is doing, but I wanted to take a moment to highlight the Genesee River Demonstration Farm Network. They are doing on-farm research and demonstration. They are building peer-to-peer learning into our interactions between growers. And we're seeing a lot of that here, right? When we bring producers together who are doing it on the ground, they really know what it takes to implement. They really know where the gaps are. They know what the hardest things to figure out are. And when you get a bunch of farmers together, they can arguably often teach each other more than somebody who's not in that space. And when we all interact with each other, we can all learn from each other. So the Genesee River Network is doing a lot of that. Also, we've produced a number of economic case studies, both in New York and across the country. And we just brought in a large agreement with NRCS to build our soil health economic calculators and do a bunch more case studies every year so that there's a lot more economic information out there. So lots of exciting stuff happening. And again, the Genesee River Demonstration Network, that webpage is here for any of those of you who want to take a look at that. So there's a lot we could say. I could talk about AFT all day. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to collaborate out of. I encourage any of you who would love to find ways to collaborate with AFT to reach out to me and to other colleagues, your New York colleagues. We're always putting in grant applications. We are working with funders. There's a lot of money in the space, and I want to see it go toward building a new conventional agriculture. So I would love to hear your ideas. I would love to build them into leverage partnerships so that we can take all of the great projects that are happening across this group here right now, put them together, streamline them, get them to benefit off of each other so that we can make the maximum impact that we possibly can, so that together we hopefully will get to a new conventional agriculture where diverse, climate smart, and soil health promoting agricultural systems can ensure a prosperous and resilient future for our farmers and ranchers and the land that sustains all of us. So with that, thank you very much. I'd love to take questions. I'd love to have you get in touch, and nice to see all of you again. Thanks a lot.
Great, thanks, Bianca. And if people do have questions, they can put them in the Q&A or contact Bianca directly.
That sounds great.
We hope to have Jeff Williams from the Farm Bureau here. He did send us a slide. Jeff, if you're hiding there somewhere in the Zoom, let us know. Farm Bureau has been a great partner for many years, and so they represent many farmers throughout the state and are helping them improve their soil health. And you can see just on the slide some of the ways that they're working with farmers and some of the most important things. Sorry not to have Jeff here today, but again, the Farm Bureau is a great partner. We'll move on to Pete Lopez from Scenic Hudson, and we'll just have him come on in video. So go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning, everyone, and almost good afternoon. I guess good afternoon, and just like to introduce myself. I'm Pete, Executive Director for Science Policy and Advocacy with Scenic Hudson, and for those not familiar, we're a not-for-profit grassroots advocacy group focused on protecting natural resources in the Hudson Valley, connecting people to the resources, and building community. And I just want to pause to thank Cornell for hosting this event. Very timely, very critical. Certainly a testimony to Cornell's leadership in advancing science and promoting constructive change on our farms and in our communities. And again, very encouraged by the incredible array of colleagues here, many of whom work with Scenic Hudson in different capacities, and the energy around this conversation. So it's very gratifying. For those, just in terms of our engagement, we're very focused on soil in many aspects. So we recognize that it cuts across various economies, various sectors of the economy, and that there are many actors, as we see and we're witnessing today, which call for the importance of bringing those partnerships together and bringing them to bear. And really, the point that is most important, and we've heard some comments from our other colleagues on the addressing us today, is that what really matters is what's the translation of program, policy, science on the ground. What does it mean for our farmers? What does it mean for soil health? What does it mean for food systems? What does it mean for being able to sustain ourselves now and in the future? So at Scenic Hudson, we're trying to organize under that space through the Northeast Carbon Alliance, which is envisioned to work with the traditional Northeast, also working with Pennsylvania, New Jersey, to try to drive research, program, policy to affect those very outcomes we're talking about, translating on the ground and making real change for farms and communities across the region. We're engaging in a number of aspects. We are focused on state policy. We've contributed with our colleagues to the scoping plan through the Climate Action Council. We are focused on federal policy too, and as our colleague from Farmland Trust and others are very much focused. We understand the significance of changing and calibrating the 2023 Farm Bill so that it can support the Northeast. And again, we feel that the Northeast is critically positioned to be a leader in this space, both in terms of practice and also in terms of supporting food systems, and not just for the major metropolitan centers that we're proximate to, but also in helping support food systems on a national basis. So we see a very strong role in that space. So we're working with research farms to standardize and collect data, hoping to drive towards a common GIS platform. We're also beginning to focus on forest carbon. So here we're seeking to establish engagement as others to control invasive species, monitor carbon sequestration and storage, protect key forested areas. Also focusing on blue carbon. We have engagement with the Hudson River National Estuary Research Reserve and the Carey Institute for Ecosystem Studies. Also, we've been fortunate to partner with New York State to help advance the Hudson Valley Carbon Farming Pilot with its demonstrations and outreach. In addition, we're looking to develop 2 regenerative agricultural districts. So in the Hudson Valley, we're looking at the Roloff-Jansen-Kill watershed and the Roundout Valley, and looking to build on the strength of our engagement and others with farmland preservation, but building around that to provide supports for delivering funding and technical assistance to farmers to engage in regenerative practices. And as we heard from some of our colleagues too, the importance is to understand what's the impact of the practice, and importantly, what does it mean for the farmer in terms of the sustainability, for the health of its soil, the health of the productive capability, and also for the economic returns. Another piece that again, I'm sure will resonate with many is the importance of bringing new voices into agriculture, particularly in terms of our BIPOC and young farmers, also our veterans. We've heard from our organic farmers and others in the regenerative space, but we recognize that to make sure that agriculture remains dynamic and that we engage in these practices, we also have to make space and bring in individuals who can help support many of our aging farmers and bring new energy and vitality into that conversation. In regard to the scoping plan, and we heard some comments about this, we are advocating the payment for ecosystem services and really see that as focused around whole farm planning. And again, we know there are many colleagues here on the line who are very much focused on that as well. Another piece that's come to our attention is the importance of bringing these investments to achieve scale. So when we look at food and food systems, what are the techniques, what are the challenges to ensuring that productive agriculture can produce the yields that we need to support our food systems, both regionally and across the nation? And also, again, to a state level and federal level, what are the barriers that are preventing young farmers and others who are historically underserved from participating and contributing? So the one thing that we just did recently was support a listening session on the federal farm bill, and we hosted that in Ghent, New York, Columbia County. We were very blessed to have Commissioner Ball, Commissioner Ball from New York State, and Elizabeth Walters join him. We also had Commissioner from Maine, Amanda Beal, Undersecretary Bonnie from USDA, and one of our new members of Congress from the region, Marcus Molinaro. In that conversation, we were focused very much on the federal farm bill and how we can, as I mentioned, calibrate the bill to support the Northeast, both in terms of regenerative practice, but also maximizing our ability to sustain farms and strengthen food systems. So I just want to say, again, our balance is science, the transfer of that technology to the farms, and ensuring that the farms have the ability to make use of resources to remain viable. So with that, I'll yield my time back to our host. And again, thank folks for letting us join. We look forward to engaging with you please look us up on the web. So both at scenichudson.org and northeastcarbonalliance.com. So thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you all for attending. It's been a tremendously informative session, and remarkably, considering the number of speakers, that we stayed within 15 minutes of our timeline. So a reminder, so we will reconvene for those of you who want to do this, and I really encourage you to participate at 1 p.m. Also, a quick note from Debbie, who has been leading our policy briefs effort. The first one she mentioned has now been officially launched, and so we're very, very pleased and proud of that effort, because communicating with policymakers is so important. So again, here, these are the roundtable discussion breakout groups, and you'll be able to select them at 1 p.m. But I would encourage you to decide ahead of time which group you would like to join. And then finally, again, I want to express my appreciation for all the speakers, panelists, and organizers. It really was a fantastically informative summit, and we hope that we can continue these strong partnerships and working with stakeholders, working with policymakers and agencies and institutions, and to keep up this strong effort on soil health in New York. With that, I hope to see you again when we reconvene at 1 p.m. Thanks very much.